At this time, I would like to call this special meeting of the Gilmer County Board of Education to order. And at this time, I would like to ask Dr. Carl Harmer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, I will take the role of board members. Misty Pritt, absent. Carl Armour.
here.
Tom Ratliff.
Here.
Phyllis Starkey. Here. Okay, the purpose for this meeting is the proposed closure of Troy Elementary School effective July the 1st, 2014. The reassignment of students in grades PK6 at Troy Elementary School will attend the new Leading Creek Elementary School commencing with the 2014-2015 school year. That's the reason for our meeting tonight. I'd like to introduce some guests who are with us tonight. Mr. Greg Bailey on the end, who is counsel with Bowles and Rice. Joe Panetta, who's Assistant State Superintendent of Schools. And Ted Schreiber, who is architect with Williamson and Schreiber. At this time, Mr. Superintendent, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. What typically would happen now, I'd explain the procedures if anybody wanted to speak, but we don't have anybody signed up to speak tonight. I'll still go ahead and explain the procedures to you and maybe give you an opportunity if you've got any questions to try to answer those for you on an informal basis. So if anyone had signed up to speak, we would give them that opportunity, give them 5 minutes, and I'd record that. And this would be the final hearing, after this is over, I'll write a letter to the State Superintendent of Schools recommending that our CEFP be carried out, which calls for the closure of all 4 elementary schools. And then it would go before the State Board of Education. What we had been advertising was that, and initially we had planned to close Troy at the end of this school year. Now, I think most folks have been out past the new building and can see that the we've got everything's kind of behind. So what's going to probably happen is that rather than do a mid-year closure and a move next year, which could occur somewhere around January, February, in the best case scenario, I've talked with Dr. Mason in Lewis County, we've kind of decided that probably not the best move. So we're probably going to wait until fall of the year after this, which would be August of 2015. Give everybody a lot better opportunity. We could have the summer to move, and people wouldn't be rushed around. Give you an opportunity to get a little better acquainted with the folks you're going to be working with from Alton Bridge. So that's probably the way that's going to work out. Anybody have any questions about this process, about what's happened so far, what's going to happen? Anybody? Any questions? I know I've spoken with staff and faculty here a number of times and explained to them the process as far as what we'll go through for teachers and service employees to be chosen for the new school. So I think they're pretty well understanding of that process. Yes,
Has Mr. Mace ever come over here and
yes.
spoken with the faculty?
Well, when we started the whole process with Mr. Schreiber, we put together a planning committee, and it ended up being about 40 people from both Alton Bridge and Troy. A number of representatives, students, parents, teachers, service employees, and then we went around visiting other schools that we might want to pattern what we're building after. And during that process, we had a number of meetings, and we'd alternate between Troy and Alton Bridge to meet. So everyone's had an opportunity to meet Dr. Mason and their counterparts from Lewis County, I think, pretty good relationship right now, is the way I would characterize it. Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
This doesn't have to do with Troy. I was just wondering how it was determined what the location was gonna be for the other school. I mean, is that like centrally located in the county for those that are gonna be served? Or is that, I mean, was that just enough? That's one of our drills.
Yeah.
Or was that one of the, was that just property that was available and big enough for what we needed? Or I just wondered how that spot was chosen. I just.
Yeah, that was actually the second proposal that we made. The first year we turned in the request for the funding, the property that was chosen by the CEFP committee was the what I call the old auction barn. I think most of you know where that was at. But after that process went through and it wasn't funded, later we got a call from other folks and they said, look, we've got some more property we want you to look at. And Ted, it was, we looked at the site that we finally selected. We looked at a site up the Cedar Creek, towards Cedar Creek Park. We looked at another site. When you go to the bottom of the hill and you turn right, what's that road? Is that Lower Cedar Creek? We looked at the site up there, so we'd actually looked at 3 or 4 additional sites from the 8 or 10 that we looked at prior to. And a lot of the things that site had going for it, the one we finally chose, it's centrally located. It's about as central as you can get and build a school for 400 students between the people who come from Rosedale and the people who come from Route 5 out toward Burnsville. So, you know, geographically about as central as you can get. You got a question, ma'am?
Since this is primarily in Lewis County, will Lewis County Board of Education solely see over that school at that time?
Did you all hear that? We can get that thing off. I heard questions. I'd like everybody here to be able to hear you. Thank you. That's one of the principal's duties, by the way. The question was, you want to state it again now so everybody here?
Okay, what I was asking was, since this school is primarily in the Lewis County area now with a new school, would it be solely overseen by Lewis County Board of Education?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Last year, we went through this entire process. Actually, a couple of years ago, we started this process. I had researched the law and had gone to the state superintendent and suggested that if this school were ever to come to fruition, that we have some type of a governing council. And the recommendation was to have a governing council that mirrored what our administrative councils are at our multi-county career centers, which means that in each county would send a superintendent, a Board of Education member, and then it'd be somebody from the state superintendent's office. And pretty much that's the way it ended up. There was a law actually drafted last year. A number of people had to hand in that spoke to inter-county schools. So what we ended up with was a governing council that would do just that. It'll have representatives from both counties. And that council will be responsible for making recommendations on everything goes on in the school to the Lewis County Board. But before that, the school will be owned technically by Lewis County. But the county line will actually run through the building itself. And Mr. Schreiber's designing an element out front that actually will show where the line goes through the building, which I thought would be kind of unique in that particular case. But the governing council will actually be a combination of people from both counties.
That the final vote goes to Lewis County.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the question she was asking.
I would think, though, It'd be a little foolish not to follow the recommendation of that advisory council, if possible.
Well, you know, anything could happen, I suppose, but if you've got a group that's been assigned by law to make recommendations to you, I would agree that it would be very difficult, I think, not to follow those recommendations, but I guess you wouldn't have to, but it makes sense if they would.
Mr. Blankenship, Mrs. Starkey had asked, had mentioned that Lewis County would have the final vote,
Yes.
but that's not in the case of personnel and hiring initially.
No. Well,
That's
yes.
the governing
Yes, it is.
council.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
however, what the code says is that we put together a list of personnel from each of the two schools, and that goes to the State Board of Education, and I think the law says they actually compile it, whatever that means, Joe. But then that group would then choose from that list before anybody else was hired from anywhere else. And the neat thing about the law is that it gives the people who work in that building seniority in both counties.
So that it's a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Personnel, the hiring of the personnel will be a collaborative effort among the council and the Lewis County administration and the Gilmer County administration.
Yes,
Still yet, Lewis County has the final say.
yes, they do.
My one question is, when you located the new central school, when you located it over on Crooked Run, over on Cedar Creek, that's not where all the student population is. It may be centrally located, but the major part of this location of the population of this county is on the east side of Little Canal River, not on the west side, and the west side's where you put the school.
But, you know, actually, the majority of the population comes out of Glenville itself. But to try to be as geographically located, as centrally located as possible, and we did the same thing in Calhoun County. You know, we tried to find the most centrally located place in the county to build a new consolidated middle high school.
That's fine for a long, skinny county, but ours is a flag county. When the population's on the eastern side and not on the western side, that means 90% of our students have to travel where they didn't have to before, if they would put it on the east side.
Well, like I say, to try to stay as centrally located as possible, that was the whole intent. Anybody have any other questions about the school here, or about the process in general, or about what the future might hold?
I might add, Mr. Blankenship, Dr. Armour and I were part of hammering out the legislation, and basically, had we gotten it the way we wanted it, we would have been creating a 56th school district in the state of West Virginia. And so I think that the committee that we have, unless there is just a disagreement that has to be settled at the state level, I envision that council as running the school, and it has equal representation. And you know, while we were holding out for absolute total sharing of the governance, I can understand if we had several inter-county school situations in the state, we'd wind up with more school districts than Mr. Panetta could keep up with. I think that time will tell how this works. And I think the folks involved all want it to work.
See, the vocational centers, the multi-county centers in West Virginia, most people don't know, but they're owned by the State Board of Education. And had the state superintendent and the state board agreed to go along with forming another council, then they would have ended up technically owning the inter-county school. And obviously that's what they don't want to do then. I don't think they want to own the multi-county centers, to be honest, but that's what would have happened had we gone the other way. Anybody else? Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's a cool night. Although nobody signed up to speak, I think you've had an opportunity to ask questions or make whatever comments you like, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate your attendance.
Do I hear a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
Second.
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Don't forget to turn the heat back on.
We will not forget that.
I need somebody to call.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Betty, thank you for everything.